All right, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the show. And you know, it's going to be a bittersweet engagement tonight because I don't know. I wish it was still the days leading up to Easter. And we started this book so long ago, it seems, but wow, it really filled up Easter season well, and it's given us a lot to talk about. And I've had a really good time doing it all, the Robe, with Stephen Jonathan, who's here with us tonight. Stephen, how you feeling?
Hey, I'm great, Frank. How are you?
I'm feeling great. It's like I said, there's a little bit more sweetness after the bittersweet ending of tonight that we'll talk about at the end. But for now, let's just talk about just general feelings here. We have finished the entire engagement, and there is some surprises. And I guess, what's your biggest surprise, Stephen?
Well, I was utterly shocked by the very end, but we'll get to that later. So many great twists and turns, and like you, it's super bittersweet because it was such a great time. It feels like it's been so long and so short at the same time. Feels like we got to enter into a kind of timelessness this Easter season, and all of us reading this, we got to meditate on Jesus Christ and Christianity this whole Easter season, just in time for Pentecost. So many surprises. We'll go through them and we'll just list them off and say, wow, that was amazing. Wow, that was just ridiculous and great meditations.
I will say this: there's a lot of amazing stuff, but the biggest surprise to me was Demetrius lives. The book ends and he's out there. I mean, he's actually on a mission. He's been given marching orders by Simon Peter. He's going to Greece. So I said, wow, okay. They talk about subverting expectations in good ways. From the get-go, I'm like, oh, everybody's dying. Everybody's dead. But yeah, we get a great character profile on Caligula, who we know just from even poor retellings of history was a young, cruel, insecure, and completely nuts character. So we even get a retelling of that very well-known story about Caligula, promoting his horse to not only the Senate, but also declaring the horse to be divine, just to show the complete disregard for any sort of democratic tradition and that he believes undercuts the throne. But we have Tiberius. He's dying, and the intentions to name Caligula the heir becomes known. Diana is already looking to get the hell out of Dodge because she knows that she's probably going to be one of his main targets. And Demetrius receives a melon around the same time from Arpino as a message from Marcellus, and that's when he and Diana conspire to leave. What do you think about all that so far?
Oh, wow. Beautiful build up to the very most important thing I want to talk about that's a little peripheral, but not really. So I just love how Diana, after from her Roman sensibilities, just cannot accept Marcellus's Christianity and his plunge from a patrician into the Christian, what they think is, a mob of the poor, which of course it's not. It's the body of Christ. So she doesn't realize in the beginning that he's being elevated. She knows this by the end, but he's being elevated to the community, the body of Christ. And she thinks it's such a great demotion that they can't afford to be together. Now, when he leaves, when he's gone, and when he goes to Arpino, she knows her love for him grows. They hear he drowned, and of course, Demetrius knows he didn't drown. So he makes sure she knows he didn't drown. And then they get this sign. And I thought this sign was amazing. And I just want to talk about that for just a second. We've mentioned the fish, ithacus in Greek. But I just want to tell you guys this, peripheral to the book, but really germane to the topic. In the city of God, in Augustine's book, in book 28, chapter 23, we learn of a Sibyl, the Sibyl of Ithria. She's a female prophet who's saying many things about Christ in 1200 BC. This is really interesting.
Wow.
She wrote this amazing poem, 27 lines, and it's a mirror to part of the book of Isaiah when the Sibyl said, she said this in this poem with 27 lines. Jesus, the Son of God, will be born to a virgin and given over to his enemies. They will beat him. They will give him a crown of thorns, and they will hang him from a tree. They'll give him bitter gall and vinegar for his drink, and the veil of the temple shall be rent, and at midday it will be darker than night for 3 hours. He shall die the death for 3 days and then return from hell. And then she said, all this and more. But I wanted to say this. If you look at the 27 lines of the poem and you take the first letter of each line, it spells out the sentence, Jesus Christ, Son of God, our Savior. And then if you take the first word from those 5 words, it spells ithacus, fish. And the fish is a symbolic thing, like the fish coming out of the ocean and into the world and then back into the ocean. That's Jesus. So I just wanted to say that's an amazing illusion. And all this was 1200 BC. Just to drive the point home, as Marcellus says, Christ came for all men. The Jews are the chosen people, but God the Savior is for all of humanity.
Yeah, and there's so much in here as far as, you know, when you would get to, for example, how everybody's starting to really take it in, trying to figure out how to deal with this force still. There is a wonderful part, I had this, so you probably had it too, on page 458 when Caligula is getting some kind of counsel from Quintus about what's going on, the mounting number of Christians that are actually in Rome at that time. And I love this right here. He says, Quintus sat silently for a while, with his eyes averted. Cornelius Capito is anxious about it, sire. He's talking about the Christians in Rome. He estimates that there are more than 4,000 of these Christians in Rome at the present hour. And what is he doing about this treason? Demanded Caligula. Quintus shook his head. It's a strange movement, sire. It has only one weapon. It's belief that there is no death. Cornelius Capito is not equipped to crush something that refuses to die when it is killed. So I think with the more mystical themes that you bring up and how this was just, foretold from so far back, and then right up here to the present day in this timeline of events where I don't know, it's just becoming a real force to be reckoned with already. And we're talking about a year after the fact. So that's something else right there. Let's see here. Quintus is trying to find his place in Caligula's court. But I feel like that is, and I don't know if you feel, I feel like along the way, Quintus kind of feels remorseful for the kind of heat that he's bringing down on some people when he realizes just how little this is actually helping his status. Like, he realizes that, there's no honorable bond to be formed with Caligula. And he, I don't know. I think sometimes he's using Caligula to maybe exact some revenge. But the other hand, I think he sees that he's just as disposable as anybody else with somebody this nuts. So I don't know how you saw that little king-toady relationship was.
Yeah, I saw that. It was obvious Caligula had contempt for Quintus. Kind of saw right through it and recognized even Quintus's cowardice to take proper revenge on Demetrius. And I saw right through it. So I think that Quintus was a coward and was ashamed, and definitely did see that he had no cachet with Caligula. So it was it was a nice reckoning for this despot, right? To not really be able to find the highest place, even though he's he's okay. It just seems very uncomfortable, doesn't it?
Yes. And then, of course, we get to be introduced to the catacombs. These catacombs out there in Rome. There's a meeting there. That's where we learn that Peter is in Rome. 471, we're back in Arpino on the melon farm where Diana is trying to hide out among all the workers over there in the field so she isn't noticed by anybody. And at the same time, Demetrius is plotting what he should be doing next. He's got to go back to Rome. And this is where you were talking about the pacing and the rising of action here. Right around here, the rise in action is so well paced and so amazing, where Demetrius takes the horse to go back to Rome. He's accosted along the way by legionnaires, and he's mortally wounded. but he somehow gets back to the galleons. We learn that Marsupor is a Christian as well. This is when the rising action really took off. Everyone at the galleons, they're trying to get Demetrius help before he bleeds out. At the same time, the galleons all have now learned that Marcellus is in fact alive. He didn't drown. So now they want to go to the catacombs to get Marcellus. When they go there, hearing that Demetrius is in bad shape and he's dying, they recruit Simon Peter to go and save him.
That's right.
And he does save him. And this is a really crazy turn of events, because I was wondering, how the hell is it going to be that everybody really gets pinched? How does everybody eventually get pinched? And the fact that it is from a jealous family physician.
Yeah. Sarpedon.
A jealous family physician who just could not get over the fact that there was a miracle performed. Go ahead, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that was just remarkable and so true to the character of modern professions. Even today, the medical profession has gotten so strange, like Sarpedon, and so prideful and arrogant that a cure by any other means that's not theirs, they take offense to. And they mention it. They completely forgot the Hippocratic Oath. And then sold them out to the emperor. It was unbelievable. So I thought that was a really great moment, and the juxtaposition between the reliance on technology and the reliance on grace and nature and faith that Saint Peter, or Peter, the big fisherman, restored him to life. And it really was a miracle, but it was one of those miracles that God and Christ do all the time. So I thought that was amazing.
Yes.
Really love that.
I really liked the way that Demetrius still needed to take it easy. You know, whenever we read about the miracles from the Bible that Jesus took part in, I mean, we're talking about people with paralysis for, God knows how many years, just they're skipping down the road. The fact that Peter came in, he did his best, and listen, he saved his life, but still, Demetrius had to take it easy, have that hot broth for a little while, and just I liked it. It was like it was a nice little thing. It added a new.
It's true to being.
Right.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
And Demetrius takes a beating. What a warrior. He's a warrior for Christ.
Doesn't stop. And to your point about the Hippocratic Oath, that's on page 488. I put a big star next to this highlight. Yeah. Marcellus leaped from his chair and confronted Sarpedon face to face. "You and your Hippocratic Oath," he shouted. "You're supposed to be interested in healing. Has it come to pass that your profession is so jealous and wretched of heart that it is enraged when a man's life is restored by some other means than your futile remedies?" I said, wow, if that's not 2024.
Yeah. If Sarpedon is not an image of Dr. Fauci, I don't know what is.
Jeez Louise. Yeah. Anyway, so that was Boomtown.
I'm not allowed to say that. I take it back.
Yeah, no, you're doing fine. So I love when Sarpedon in particular ends up claiming that Demetrius had only suffered a flesh wound or something to lessen the significance of the recovery. Anyway, Demetrius, he returns to Greece upon Peter's orders, and that is the last we hear from him. So he does survive the book, and that's something. And now all we're left with is the trial, which was masterfully written, and as just the character analysis goes, Marcellus, he did wonderful. I mean, the confidence, no fear, so well spoken. He answered better than I would have. I'm thinking about ways that I can show that there's no harm to you and your throne here, Caligula. There's no harm to you here. He made the case perfectly that there's no desire. There's no desire to conquer. There's no earthly king to supplant. He was so diplomatic that it made things really hard for Caligula, and he got. I think at that point he was just pissed off that he started losing support in the room. So go ahead, talk about the trial. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, the trial was amazing. Like you said, his answers to Caligula were just perfect. Like, I'm the one on trial here, Your Eminence, not you. When he was saying, "Are you challenging the emperor?" I'm the one on trial. What a great response. That was a Christ-like response. And everything he said was perfect. And I loved how he shone like a true man, like a warrior in the eyes of Diana. Diana was just welling with pride more and more and more, watching, and said, Christ, this is your man. This is the way. It's just a beautiful paradox and irony that he put Christ to death and now is his biggest and best advocate on planet Earth. It's just amazing.
And then they go, and of course, because of that testimony too, I mean, whatever she was on the fence for, no longer, to see that come and be brought forth in a person and how they conduct themselves in such a high risk situation where your life is hanging in the balance. Man, she found a way to condemn herself so that they can walk off to the archery together, the archery range together, and that was it. That's where it's left off. So they are done in together, and I mean that's just it's something. And boy, how pathetic of a creature is Caligula as well too.
What a putz.
Yeah.
It's not unlike Pontius Pilate and Christ. It's like, well, I have nothing else I can do. Just go put them to death for treason, and the way they accepted their cross was true Christianity. They took the narrow, hard road and they took it with joy. And they said, if this is what the government calls for, this is what the government calls for. That required supernatural grace. And I think both Diana and Marcellus were supernaturally graced because of their faith and because of their fidelity. They were given the gift of peace on their very way to an early death, which means eternal glory. That's the thing that we miss. Eternal glory. For what? For a slightly shortened life. So it was really moving and crushing at the same time, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes, and the other thing there too is now just a comment generally on the writing is it's the little things that made so much of this so I don't know, human to me. For example, just on page like 482 when Marcellus was getting reacquainted with his family that thought he was dead, these little things, the little moments over here. Gallio, aged and weary, met them at the top of the stairs, embracing his son in silence. Cornelia, much shaken by the night's events, swayed weakly into his arms, whimpering incoherent endearments. It's like I feel the love of these fictional characters being. I feel that these motherly, mother-son moments. I feel the father-son. I feel this stuff. It's just very well written, and we have those all throughout the book, and it takes the time in Palestine with people. It makes that so much more tangible. It's just it's just little things along the way. I just got to give Douglas a lot of credit, and yeah,
same. I do the same, and I wanted to know what you thought, Frank, of the very end of how they treated the robe. He called for the robe. They brought him the robe. He had the robe, and the emperor asked him to hand it over and asks him, "What you think this holds some magic?" And I just wanted to get your take on that. I thought that was fantastic how they treated the robe. He handed it off. It fell to the ground, and then he got it off to Diana. I just thought that was really interesting and worthy. And I really thought he was going to wear the robe to his death.
Yes.
Which would have been interesting, but that's not what happened, and it's probably not what should have happened.
Right. And it's just one of those things where I saw it as a very appropriate send-off that of course this was the main, it's the title. It's the name of the book, and of course it is a very pivotal I would say artifact, relic, prop, of course, as an author. It's a prop that you use to really sell what you're trying to convey there, and for it to be there at the trial is incredible. And didn't it end up in Marsapor's hands?
Yeah.
So that was important to me, that the robe had really magnified and impacted everybody it touched. If you were of ill spirit, if you were not a worthy person, if you had a lot of things going for you, you were going to be repelled by it.
Pulsed, exactly.
It was going to make you whole if you, in other circumstances. It was going to comfort you if you've already accepted Christ in your life, and it just became one of those stabilizing, relics. But For him to have gone to his death, and that would mean that upon his dying, they would have just disposed of him and this rag that they don't know anything about. So the fact that it got out of there,
that's why,
and it left. I'm glad that it survived. It went in appropriate hands, and I'm glad that it didn't stay with him.
You just answered my very question mark. That was brilliant. Yes, exactly right.
So
it's gone on, and it's a relic, and it's an image of the sacramental. So beautifully done. Yeah.
Let's go to our audience now. Let's see what other points are made. Jalen Wennings, to end it all, he's the first one again. What a finale! Once I started this session, I couldn't put the book down. Talk about emotional roller coaster. Relieved when Demetrius was reunited with Diana. Tiberius must have known this would be his only chance to keep her safe. From Caligula. Her escape from Capri had my heart pounding with every word. I was white-knuckled and even shouted, "Jump, Diana," when Demetrius. Yes, yeah. Marcellus' journey into the catacombs gave me chills, and I think I didn't breathe until we find St. Peter. Demetrius' body, a bloody return to the Gallio home on the brink of death, then I feel is the book's Deus ex machina. He was brought back to life by Peter. Then, needless to say, yes, and I got to say, Deus ex machina moments really don't do it for me. You know, some of them are perfect. This was perfect. The fact that Peter was in Rome, he, by his rank alone, should have the proper authority to be able to intervene in a situation like this. It was perfect. But on the other hand, Stephen, I don't know if you is the same with you. I was perfectly willing and ready for Demetrius to die that way. I thought, okay.
I thought he was, sacrifice himself.
You know, I thought
but
it was.
Instead, he was liberated. He was manumitted. He was set free. This symbol for his freedom he already possessed was put into the world. And then he's gone off to Athens. Yeah, these are great comments from Waylon Jennings or Jalen Wennings.
Yeah. Needless to say, he finishes, the final act of bravery by Diana to stand by her husband's side got me in the feels big time. An amazing book, life-changing in many respects, easily one of my favorites now, and Demetrius had become one of my favorite characters in all of literature. Thank you. Tremendous pick, Frank. I have not seen the movie, but I do know there is a sequel titled Demetrius and the Gladiators. Might be worth a watch. Wait. A sequel movie? I didn't know about that. I'll tell you. I got to tell you, now that we are finished with the book, the movie falls painfully short.
Yeah.
And for a time, the movie was all and I'll say it again. I wish the one thing that was in the movie that's not in the book is Demetrius's encounter with a Judas that is about ready to just end it all. That was a wonderful call as far as the screenwriting goes, but good film as a standalone, but as far as the richness of the story told here, it doesn't compare to me. But we have more to say on that in just a little bit here. Let's see here.
Yeah, can I interject? I didn't even watch the whole movie. I watched the first half, and the book was just too good by comparison. I thought, at the end of this, I'll watch the movie, but I can't. I just can't. So I didn't. I maybe fell short on that. But I want one more comment on what we just read.
Yeah.
You know, when Diana jumped from the cliff, she was being pulled back up. But when she jumped from the cliff, I thought that was like her baptism. She almost died. And this was a dying to herself. I believe that's the moment where she shed all her doubts as she pursued Marcellus, because when she got to Arpino, she said, "That's my fiance," and all this. So I thought that was a wonderful baptismal scene, getting roiled around in the waves and then kind of rescued by Demetrius. I just wanted to make that point.
There's several moments like that. I feel like everybody gets baptized in one way or another in this.
That's right.
Or initiated properly in one way or another. It's something. Baptized or confessed. You know, we get both.
Blood, water, or confession. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we get that a lot. Mark G says, in the first or second session, I wrote about how rock solid Demetrius was. Well, he didn't change at all. However, in this last section, Marcellus became every bit as rock solid. Response after response showed amazing, unshakable faith. His response to Marsupor when it suggested that he leaves Rome gave me chills. First, he quotes Jesus saying, quote, "Sometimes a man had to lose his life in order to save it," and that those who tried to save themselves would surely lose themselves. Then finishes it off with its own quote, "Can't you realize that our cause might be lost if we, who believe in it, are frugal of our blood?" That's huge. And then every perfect response to Caligula's mocking was perfectly placed. That type of faith has zero cracks, and I would venture to say most of us are not there. As faithful as we may be, I was struck by the thought that it's one thing to lose a job because you won't take a job, but to knowingly lose your life for a belief so strong, it's a whole other level. That level of faith is a personal goal for me. In closing, I would say that this may be one of the only books or movies that left me with a sense of joy when the main protagonist died in the end. Wow. Yeah. When the hell else do you ever feel that? Yeah. I was smiling while reading the last 10 pages, especially at Diana's instant conversion. That joy in the face of death, knowing that heaven is waiting for us, is a gift from Jesus that Christians are truly blessed to have. Great pick, Frank. This is the type of book that hits so hard it makes you think about your decisions in everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. True.
I mean, anything else you have to say, go right ahead.
No, well said. I'm in complete agreement, and the book's it's such a tragic end, and you're beaming through it. You're beaming with pride for Jesus Christ and Marcellus representing him. It's just so true. It's just an odd thing. I mean, I was joyful when I ended. I went to my wife. I'm like, "Faith, oh my gosh!" And she didn't tell me about it, so we really enjoyed the end together once I got through it. But she beat me by like a couple weeks, you know.
Oh man, well, you know, that's really nice of her. That's really nice of her.
She didn't say a word. She just kept saying, "Where are you now? Where are you now?" It was that thing. I mean, it's such a hard book, but so joyful because just like whoever just said that, who just spoke?
That was Mark G.
Yeah, Mark G. Mark G. So right. That's the faith to which we aspire, and it's just inspiring to watch that play out in a way that's, I think, true to history and really beautifully done. That's our aim.
Yeah. There's a lot I can say about that personally. Maybe at the end, who knows where we have as far as time goes. Heather Peets said, "I love how Douglas structured this novel. Marcellus' story began at a party where he offended Gaius and got himself shipped off to Minoa. Another party served as the turning point in his life when he donned the robe, and at the final party, Marcellus made his bold stand." Early on, Marcellus reflected on his coming-of-age ceremony in which his, quote, "father put the white toga on me, and life had begun," end quote. He proposed another ceremony at the crowning moment of a mature man's career to take the place in front of a, quote, "vast assembly," end quote. After passing his robe on to another man, the honored man would march erectly, and with him firm step from the rostrum and out to face the sunset. Initially, I thought these lines would be fulfilled in Christ, but I did not expect them to describe Marcellus. What a beautiful ending. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very. NJSF responded to that, said, "Yes, early on I had asked Frank in the stream chat if he could discuss with the co-host any associations between the role of the toga, which was used in the role of the toga virilis, as a coming-of-age ceremony, and the coming of spiritual age with the robe, Jesus' robe." Oh. That
brilliant connection.
I mean...
Yeah, that Heather brought that up is great. And yeah, the robe virilis toga is the earthly version of the spiritual robe. And they both have similar significances, one in the material secular world and one in the city of God. So I thought that was a great comparison.
Yes. And NJSF leaves a follow-up comment. He says, "I was so glad to be wrong about Prince Gaius being Caligula, which showed up after all and was his nephew. Especially since that death did not become a deus ex machina device to ease Diana and Marcellus staying together. Since Caligula kept up with that same danger Prince Gaius posed. Still, my question is, do you think that Gaius would have been as dangerous as Caligula? I don't think so.
Caligula's worse.
Yeah, and Gaius had that. He had that bond with Quintus, but did he? Quintus probably killed Gaius. That's what we all assume.
That's right.
So
I'm assuming that.
So I just like, it's crazy. Was Gaius the better choice? But then again, you know what? Still, it shows that some liberty with the actual Roman history of the time was taken by the author. Prince Gaius might refer to Gaius Caesar, the son of Julia the Elder, but which date of death does not match. And even Drusus, that died later, would not work since he would be the son of Tiberius' first wife, Vipsania Agrippina, not Julia. So, see, this is one of those things. I want to start reading more and more all my Roman history books again. This was something I was really interested in college, and I let it slip, and I want to go back in there. At least it seems Quintus was more or less accurate match for Macro. Navius Sutorius Macro. So who knows? Maybe Douglas went that far with it, or maybe he just took names and of course, like, you know, poetic license, just took liberties, names and liberties. Hey, it sounds Roman. Let's work with it.
Sure.
You never
and
know.
You're not the only one, Frank. I also want to go back to my Roman history, which I always loved, especially when I was younger. And after reading this, I'm also thinking I'm going to go back to my history books and dig in so I can get this timeline right. It's a good idea.
Could be. You might find even more in there.
That's right.
Let's see. Gal 2, 2021 says the ever-present and ongoing spiritual warfare comes front and center in this last section. As the persecution of the believers ramps up, even the perpetrators of it have some sense that the weapon the believers have is unbeatable. There you go. Exactly what I wrote before. It's a strange movement, sire. It has only one weapon. It's belief that there is no death. Cornelius Capito is not equipped to crush something that refuses to die when it is killed. Not only will the movement not die, but those who are believers know they will not truly die. I was reminded of 1 John 3:8 said, Jesus was manifested to destroy the works of the devil, end quote. And at the very end, as Marcellus and Diana are marched off to be executed, quote, the audience was startled by the harsh, drunken laughter of Little Boots, but nobody except Little Boots thought it was an occasion for derisive laughter. This was a profound moment of satanic rage, and I believe deep knowing for Caligula that he had already lost. Oh, no doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it, because everybody in court, everybody in his court they knew that this was bad.
Right. Satanic rage is the perfect two words.
Yeah. Jesus had already won. The robe, the mantle, will be passed to Peter to keep the movement going. As tradition has it, he was the first bishop of Rome. Others would continue to take the message in history that has recorded and will record the many martyrs who followed and still do to this day. Check out Fox's Book of Martyrs and Jesus. Fox's Book of Martyrs and Jesus Freaks. More modern day. I didn't know there was probably many. Frank and Stephen, thank you for leading us through this amazing read. You challenged us more to think deeply about the story, and it is not a book I would have picked up to read, but I am so glad you chose it. I so much enjoy the other members' comments and learn every time. Stephen, I look forward to hearing your account of how Christ changed your life and also your time in Gaza. I think you mentioned being there.
So no, I've never been to Gaza.
But you never been to Gaza?
I've never been to Gaza. But I'd love to share my story another time. I don't think we have time tonight, but we'll have to come on and talk about it.
No problem. That'd be
Conversion
fine.
night.
That'd be fine. That'd be great. Let's see here.
Thank you for those comments.
NJSF responded to that. It's a great point. I also found profound that the moment you describe where everyone stayed silent while Caligula laughed was a very telling sign of a turning point and that the devil had lost. It showed that the strength of the people of conviction, that while suffering will be experienced, ultimately they will prevail. Let us focus on the definition of meek that follows strength. Gentle or mild of temper, self-controlled and gentle, not easily provoked or irritated, forbearing under injury or annoyance. So blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Matthew 5:5. Yeah.
Excellent comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have here? Let me go to Robert Solario next. He says, page 456 to 457. Caligula speaking with Quintus. So it was, again, how better to speak of our current border problem. We are not concerned over the mutterings of the fat old men in the Senate. We have the people with us. As long as they are fed, we shall feed them when we like. Or the Palestine problem of today. Is there to be disorder, and do we have to lash them back to their kennels? We will tolerate no mobs, no meetings. Arrest these fools wherever you find them, and we will break this thing up before it even starts. Or drunk Caligula as Biden, saying the imperial voice was becoming the imperial voice was becoming incoherent. And later on, they said, quote, the empire was in a shameful plight, had now surrendered to despair. It made his heart ache. But going back to page 16. Matt is right when they say when he says Emperor Trump as Gallio. When he says Emperor Trump as Gallio says of an emperor, what he needs is a keen scent of conspiracy, a mind crafty enough to outmaneuver treachery, a natural talent for duplicity, and the hide of an alligator.
Excellent read and analogies there. Excellent.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing, reading through it, making those connections.
Great comparisons, especially on keeping the people fed, says Mark G. Yeah. And that's the other thing. I love that the people who have contributed to this thread are getting into the comments of other people's contributions.
Yeah.
It's great.
Wonderful.
All right. Let's see here. We're moving right along. Crude IT Guy. Only a few left. Crude IT Guy says, I have never thoroughly enjoyed a book as much as The Robe. Douglas took us back 2,000 years and retold stories many of us have heard before from the Bible or watched in the hollow movie made from the book. Let's see here. The Robe was so much more vivid in words than the Technicolor movie was in pictures. Even if we had heard the stories before, this was one continuous journey where you get to hear the everyday interactions with regular people crossing the path of the main characters. Some of my favorite dialogue comes from Captain Mennius, Centurion Paulus, Benjamin, Justus, and countless roadside conversations. Marcellus and Demetrius go from a kind but master-slave relationship to a friendship where Demetrius refuses to be free to help Marcellus to brothers in Christ in the end. You see the main characters grow, learn, question the world around them. You even get to see them grow in their faith and put that faith to use in such common-sense ways that it almost seems foreign throughout the lens of today's world. I think everyone who reads the book would love to go to Arpino after Marcellus converted it, if they could. Absolutely. Yes.
Right.
I would pick melons all day. The Romans themselves were slaves to their rules, laws, customs, systems, religion, and society. So the further you were from Rome and the poorer you were, the more likely you were to be free to make your own decisions. But you also see the world 2,000 years ago described by Douglas and cannot help but see the parallels to our modern-day creeping dystopia. Number one, there's a caste system, from emperor all the way down to the slaves. But even someone as high as the heir apparent, Prince Gaius, was not safe in this system. Number two, rich, corrupt politicians. The Senate became more of a tool for the emperor and his closest followers. People were given high positions only for reward and not for merit. Number three, endless wars, to create fresh slaves and riches for those who ran the Roman Empire, but Rome didn't have the resources to properly manage the extensive empire. Number four, system doctors, Dr. Fauci's, who care more about following their prescribed ways of thinking than saving people's lives, ignoring the Hippocratic Oath, and then wanting to punish the healer, Peter, and the Gallio family for using him. The number five, sheep mentality, the common citizens, merchants, slaves, vastly outnumbering the rich and powerful, but they're still under the control through fear. You know, what I would say to that also, Stephen, is that there is a moment that Marcellus was kind of assessing the rabble in Rome and comparing them to the opportunity that he had to make an inroads with the people in Arpino. And in Rome, he was talking about how it was just so loud they couldn't hear themselves think, let alone be able to have a conversation. And I took that immediately. It's like, okay, well, it's a big city, but also that is the main reason, the main way that media is weaponized against us as well, to create so much clutter in the mind, so much chatter, that it's really impossible for people to get a really wholesome message received.
That's right. That's right. And we didn't spend any time on the Arpino, but we saw that when Marcellus and Diana, when Demetrius and Diana went there, they witnessed the effect of one well-ordered man on a community. And that community was brought under the natural law of Christianity, and it turned out to become more and more peaceful and more beautiful. And you can ask somebody, would you rather live with 50 Christians or with 50 gangsters? And the modern world's like, I'll take the gangsters because I'm down with the people. But they miss the point that if we live by the law of Christ, we bring order not just to our homes, but to our neighborhoods and our societies. And that's being under attack nonstop by the media and by the schools and by the politicians. And it's unbelievable. But that's a great example or illustration of how this could work out.
Yes, absolutely. And more onto this caste system that we have here. Government mockery is another thing to say. The state religion is mocked and is only used as an excuse to have parties and parades. People privately mock it and are fearful in reprisals, which seem to occur mostly out of spite. That's the other thing there, too. It was part of the brilliance of Marcellus' trial, where Caligula is trying to use the feast day of Jupiter as a way to accuse Marcellus of blasphemy. And even right there, Marcellus, Jesus has absolutely takes no exception with those who are doing this. And the fact that he was able to keep himself outside of the boundaries of every accusation, but not make any denouncements and not lose his faith. He never backs away from what he's feeling and how he believes that Jesus changed the world already. But again, it's about saving souls. Caligula, you're talking about the heart of the material world at that point, Rome. There's no real consideration for the soul at that point. Propaganda, a new religion of true peace being mocked by those who do not understand it or who do not want to live in such a fair and peaceful world. And a miracle-free world. Miracles cannot be believed. They must be magic. Miracles are all around us if we only pay attention. Something I have said for decades, accept miracles, don't expect them.
Beautiful.
There's more here about mob rule. Christ was murdered because of mob rule. The rich and powerful in Judea could not abide someone emptying their places of worship and cutting into their tithes, and then punish good people. Good people who only want the freedom to live their lives, raise a family, own property, and make their own decisions. That must be smashed. Thank you so much, Frank, for offering this chance to read such a great and timely book. I hope there is a time for a future book club to read The Magnificent Obsession, also by Lloyd C. Douglas. Well, yeah, The Magnificent Obsession. Well, here's the thing. Might as well just say it. We got about 12 minutes left, but we had a great review of, I believe, is it the next book after this? The Big Fisherman?
I'm not sure if it is, but it seems to me it would be, yes.
Yeah, well, anyway, the other Lloyd C. Douglas book, the Big Fisherman, that was read by another book club member over here who blasted through the Robe and said, you know what, I want to pick up this other one. And she got in touch with me, and she gave me such a sterling review, and I trust her so much. I've known her for a long time. I sent it over to Stephen, and she said, let me tell you something. The Robe deepened my faith, and I loved The Big Fisherman even more because you get so much more time with Jesus as a character. I said, well, Stephen, what do you think about doing this for Easter next year? And let's do it. There you go.
I'm 100% in. 100%.
So go out there and buy The Big Fisherman and just sit on it until 2025. Stephen will be back, and we'll
do it again.
We'll do it again. I can't wait.
I can't wait. Yeah, and she said it was even better than and more profound than The Robe. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And I'm just curious about timelines, like whether or not this is going to be Demetrius and Simon Peter after the fact. They're in Greece, they're doing their thing, and there's just a lot more because you're sitting there with a first-hand witness. With Peter, there's just a lot more going back in time, to Jesus' ministry. That's it. That'll be an interesting thing to figure out next year.
Yes.
Let's see here. Here's one from Beastburn. We're not going to be able to get through all these, unfortunately. It says, I so wish I had more time to elaborate. I missed out on the forum during this whole book, and I was always finishing the assignment a couple of days after the book club would meet. This book changed my life. It was the only book I really wasn't that interested in reading out of the books listed for this year, but I had committed to this book club, and I decided that I would still read this book along with the club. It almost immediately became one of my favorite books. The writing is breathtaking for sure, but the content of the book is mesmerizing. I know that there were moments where people doubted the author and his descriptions of the miracles, but I believe that was very intentional. This book was written for non-believers. I won't get into the details of my journey, but suffice to say, this book sealed my conversion. Wow.
Beautiful.
I wasn't even looking to convert when I started this book. I was raised Catholic, and the way that I experienced the Bible and Jesus always made it all feel so unattainable. Douglas presented it in a way that allowed me for the first time in my life to really understand what it meant to have a relationship with Jesus. There's so much more that I would love to go through with different chapters and scenes, but I'm short on time. I can say at least that the chapter with Marcellus and Arpino was the most impactful chapters in the book. It was my favorite chapter for so many reasons, but what made it beautiful was the way that he converted a whole village simply by being like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I have been long trying to fulfill the Gandhi quote, be the change you wish to see in the world, but it was actually the Arpino chapter that made me fully understand what that means in everyday life. I have struggled to do it successfully on my own, but I see why partnering with Jesus is a necessity for most of us to be able to do it. I see now that Jesus allows us to have a relationship with God. The book barely even mentions God, but you come to experience him through your relationship with Jesus. Hold on, there's one more thing here. I remember when I saw the eclipse. I live in Dallas, and I remember thinking about how I couldn't really look at it because it was too brilliant under the moon, fully eclipsed, until the moon fully eclipsed it. I thought about all the tales that I had heard about how you can't look up at the face of God because he's too powerful to look at. And when I saw the eclipse, I thought how the moon afforded me the opportunity to look directly in the face of God, experience his magnificence, and live to talk about it. As I continued to read the book, it made me feel as though that is one of the roles Jesus played for us. It was like living a metaphor that helped me understand the connection of everything. God was the sun, Jesus was the moon, and the earth is his creation, us, his children. Through Jesus, we are so able to experience God in a way that the world was never able to experience before, and many will refuse it. This book also showed me how everything we are experiencing right now in the world is so similar to what happened to the early Christians. The message is one of love, yet people will hate you for it. I wish I could have been a part of the forum before the end, but I'm still glad I was able to be a participant in this book with all of you. Hey, that was...
Oh, wow.
That's all.
Every word, beautiful.
That's it. It's okay.
Every word. I echo it too. I would never have read this book without Frank. I mean, I'm so grateful that you brought this up. I wouldn't even pick it up, and we did together, and it was amazing. I echo everything he said. Congratulations on your conversion. What a gift. What a gift.
That, I've never heard that articulated by anybody. I don't know if that's a common way of making it all make sense, but Jesus being the moon in the eclipse to make the sun actually attainable to, able to physically look at. That, because, we always hear about that, that road to Damascus kind of a moment where you are just struck down by the brilliance.
Scales fall from your eyes.
That's it. Yeah. The booming voice that you're just in a fetal position.
Yeah.
For Jesus to allow that to be to make that more human and physically able to have that experience, that's a really great metaphor or analogy. Yeah. Okay, let me see. Dyslexic Angel said, random thoughts while reading the next and final section of pages. The book club has been the light in the lighthouse in the darkness that seems to be enveloping the world. This book club book, I should say, sorry. Enveloping the world at the moment, or I should say trying to envelop the world. Because I see that, and based on the increase of those choosing to acknowledge that they are Christian, i.e. Russell Brand just got baptized, that may be the simile, should there be a candle in the darkness. Mm-hmm. This candle seems to be igniting more and more souls to embrace their faith and be fierce about it. So anyway, that is how I found reading this book and what it has brought to me. There's nothing more beautiful and tear-evoking than unbridled kindness and joy of people coming together in authenticity, heartfelt joy, i.e. the wedding of Marcellus and Diana, followed quickly by the disgusting display of a weak and spineless display of a self-serving man in Sarpedon. Little Boots reminds me of Commodus in the Ridley Scott movie Gladiator. Did you know that there was a Gaius, Quintus, and Lucius in Gladiator? Yes. But there, Quintus is, he's one of those things, at the end, he ends up being stand-up, but he saves his hide. He's not like malevolent in Gladiator, Quintus, but he's an order follower. He's got a tug inside of his. He has a conscience that he doesn't like what he's doing, but yeah, he's not like this one.
No, and it's several hundred years later too.
Yeah. My favorite line in the book, on Jesus, a Jewish brawler. Oh yeah, a Jewish brawler. Other than in the synagogue when Jesus whipped those selling their wares in the house of Lord, do we ever see him brawl? Yeah, yeah. I think that's the whole point there. He's got to regain a little bit of his brawler image to people. Too much of those who are out there representing the faith or certain factions of the faith have turned Christianity into a real, weak,
pacifist,
tolerant.
Yeah.
It's overly tolerant, weak, just steamroller. It's like what's the point?
Yeah, it's turned into the cult of nice, and it's completely false.
Yeah.
He whipped them in the temple, and he called the Pharisees. He said, "Your father Satan, your whitewashed tombs."
Wow.
Yeah, Jesus wasn't a wimp, or yeah. Jesus
I've heard that story told many times. I never heard that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he said, "Your father Satan. You're the father of the father. Your father is the father of lies. Your whitewashed tombs." Think how strong that is. You're dead on the inside, and you look good because you profess the law, but you don't live it out in your heart. So, and that's an act of love to tell somebody, straighten up or you're going to burn in hell for eternity. It's an amazing, manly, powerful thing to do. It's the attack on the patriarchy that has effeminized society so badly, masculinizing women, effeminizing guys, and now even Christians are confused the world over. Yeah. It's a huge mistake. Huge.
I know, and we're in such a situation now that even I just pay attention. I'm in a phase in my life where I'm just listening, watching, reading, and just paying attention, and to see where it's all veering and where it's been brought. When you see anybody or any group, or especially with like Catholics, there is a greater interest in pre-Vatican II ways of doing things, the old ways of doing things, traditional Latin Mass, things like that. And of course now there is just this retching from that there's a conservative movement, there's a far right way. It's like it's crazy because of course you can see that over the course of many years this was a plan. There was a plan to neuter the faith across all denominations. It's not just Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant. It's just it's the infiltration is complete. Is very, very thorough.
Yeah, it's complete. The inversion is complete. Up is down and down is up. Isaiah said, "Woe to those who call good evil and evil good." We celebrate evil and we excoriate the good. We reward viciousness and punish virtue, just like Caligula. It's complete.
Just
You're
like
right.
Caligula. You're up. And it said, grateful to Frank and grateful to Stephen for this time together. Thank you. Thank you all. Now, it's 10 o'clock, so we got to get off here. There is one more, and I would just say, everybody, I'm just going to read the top here of NJSF because he's very, very, very precise and adds a lot of excerpts, all very good stuff. Great conclusion to an expertly timed book, just in time for the end of Easter this Thursday. And what a twist of an ending. Diana's late conversion and the couple martyrdom was unexpected for me, as only Marcellus was clearly heading in that direction. It was a marvelous scene with the public announcement of the faith, like Diana believing in the eternal life, filled with love and righteousness. Even Marcellus echoed the dignity of Jesus at the trial, and the power of the robe was again demonstrated as none of the guards could hold it. Yes.
Beautiful.
None of the guards can hold it, and anybody that was being given to it that wasn't worthy recoiled. It's just again a testament of the wonderful writing. And thanks again for everything, Stephen. This has been great. Is there anything you want to leave people with? Obviously, you're.
Yeah, I'm just humbled by the experience. Frank, thanks for having me in, and these wonderful participants who write these beautiful, intelligent things. It gave me hope. In spite of the total inversion of reality, I'm hopeful for us. It doesn't take a lot of us. Like it took Marcellus. We could all imitate Marcellus and be good men. And I just love the group. So thank you for this. Thank you, everybody, for all of it. That's all I have to say.
Well, I'm looking forward to not only next year, but I'm looking forward to the next time that you're on the show. And, of course, we'll talk off air. It's been a happy Easter to you, and thank you for everything.
Same to you. God bless you guys. God bless you, Frank, your family, and all of you.
Same to you and yours. Take care.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, another title. We did it. Hello, Lisa. Hello, J. Jewel. Hello, ST. Deborah. Let's see, Kobe. We're all Winston now. Laura. Thank you, guys and gals. Kate Nagel. It's been great to have you all here. I hope that you're ready for June, because we're only a couple of weeks away. Charlie Robinson. I mean, compared to this 500-page beefy, amazing ride, and it was an amazing ride. Compared to this, we're talking about less than half. I think it's less than half. I think it's less than 250 pages. Dandelion Wine. It's just going to be a nice summertime read, and I hope you are ready to go. Dandelion Wine, Ray Bradbury, coming up on Monday nights in June. And then after that, The Never-Ending Story. That I might even get Rob to be able to read that one, because he likes The Never-Ending Story. There's a lot to be talked about with these upcoming titles, and I hope that you're ready for them. Thank you for spending your time with me. Love you all, and yeah, happy Easter. This was a good one. See you soon.